Welcome to the Max Earners show here with today we've got myself, DoubleDub, and my co-host, Bazooka Joe. We're going to be doing a bit of a review of the Season 40 draft and looking to see how the teams shape up, what could be some of the holes for these teams that still remain. So, Zook, how are you?
I'm good, man. Not bad. Not bad at all. How about you?
Yeah, pretty good. Ready to tap into it here. So, a bit about me. GM currently of the Amarillo Armadillos. Will be called up to the big leagues this season to pitch for the first time I can say this for the Cancun Toros. How about yourself, Zook? Where are you sitting in the league right now?
Big time hype. Look at you.
Yep.
I'm a season 34 draft class. I wasn't drafted by the Dillos, but I was picked up on waivers and ended up winning a World Series with them. Got drafted by the Nashville Stars and have been with the Stars ever since. And have a World Series with them as well. So I think that was season 39. But we're looking and hoping for bigger things this season.
Yep. Good chance of it as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So, firstly, we want to take a look at some of these prospects that are coming up. Well, they've got
Yeah.
selected in a draft, but some of the prospects that caught our eye over the last sort of season and how they've been going. So, for the hitting side, one that I like, especially here, would be between Baz and Alikh. Both of them working in the back end of this show that you are listening to right now. Another one, Vela and Rockstar, they're both recreates, have been around for a while. They both know how to build a player. I think Rockstar's got the most money of any prospect out of this class. And another one that I think has caught the eye is Philippa Lou. The user came across from the SHL, and they've brought a lot of energy, a lot of engagement with the league, and definitely has excited a few people. So we'll see that they actually went pretty high in the draft as well. But those hitters are definitely five to keep an eye on moving forward. Now we'll move it over to Zook to look at the pitchers, but we do have to talk about the fact that this was a pretty shallow class for pitching.
It definitely was. So weak pitching all around this draft, and it seems that it's been going on for quite a few drafts now. But some top guys that are coming out of this draft that I would say, of course, we got a recreate in Mudbone, who's been solid for the Dillos, and we got some new creates also with Mr. Elharm and Jung Cook. I think he came from the SHL as well. We're looking at Indiana Polis and Wally Choi, digging down a little bit deeper there. But like you said before, weak pitching all around. So I expect these guys to actually go somewhat pretty early if some of these teams want to get a head start on their pitching.
Yeah, definitely one of those things where the top couple of pitchers are definitely still highly valued and probably more so valued because it's just not the depth. But there's also a few GMs who created as pitchers, but no, we don't need to talk about them. We all know where they were going to get drafted. So yeah, I mean we'll move on now to a little bit of a breakdown team by team. So we'll start boring. We'll start with New York Voyagers, just because one, they don't have any first round picks. But two, they were also probably the best team in the league across both of the conferences for probably most of the year. They did get beaten by Death Valley in the World Series, but they certainly showed throughout the regular season that they were the team to beat, and they came out on top in that Legends East division. So the thing with New York is that they are starting to get a little bit older. Evil Dictator, JR Frankenstero, TGP, Rocks Out with your Crocs Out. They're all experiencing regression, and they've got pieces there to come through already on the roster as players like Johnny Patey V2, Franklin DeMars, uh, Romeo Roses coming out of the pen as well, and they've also got prospects that are coming through. So while they didn't have a first round pick this season, I don't think it's going to be the biggest deal.
No, not at all. And you also forgot about Parquad. He's going to have a
Oh,
nice little talk with you, Anthony Parco, having a heck of a season with a 15-5 record. But yeah, I mean, this team has been set up as trust Enoch and his process here. He set this team up even with old timers retiring or looking at the end of regression. He has quite the few prospects that are coming up that is just going to keep the Voyagers contending every season, it seems like. So
Absolutely.
we're going to stay in the East, the Legends East here. We're going to go with Outer Banks coming in at 63 and 45, finishing second in the Legends East. I'm thinking the same thing here. They did have a little bit of regression after winning back-to-back World Series. They lost a few pieces, regression or retiring. And it seems, again, this year they're going to lose Schneider. Also, Emerson will be gone. So I'm looking at the OBX needing to pick up some hitters in this draft. And I know that they got some top prospects in Okada Khan and Adam Hangman, but they don't want to. Sorry, is Fielder and 43 Senior also gone?
They're
Or
not gone, but they're just regressing. I believe there's retirement coming soon. In fact, believe that the 43 senior retirement will be coming through this season.
yeah, so I wouldn't say that they're as comfortable as the Voyagers in this situation. They're still going to be contenders, but they definitely need to look at their hitting. And it seems like this draft, with their one of their picks, they did pick up Ruggsy with the Heelys, and that's not going to hurt anything as it goes to the bullpen there. Once he gets called up, he's going to be a solid earner. He's a solid earner, and he's going to be a solid player for them.
Solid guy as well. Good,
Oh yeah.
good around the PB locker rooms and everything like that. Ticks the boxes over there in OBX, which leads
Hmm.
us the next team, Buffalo Surge. So they finished third. They went to game 109. Actually, I believe it was game 110 of Maui, 109 for them, and they did not come out on top. But it's sort of interesting where they don't have a lot of prospects leading into this draft. They have aging players. So what do? Well, they go ahead and they trade Jacques Toussaint. They trade and they also trade, I believe, Kevin Larson. They traded during the draft, where they traded up to ninth overall. So not only did they select it at fifth overall, but they also selected at ninth overall. And they were able to select Vidal Vela Jr. So that is Vela's player, and Hulk Savage, which is Panda Kazi's player. So
Hmm.
two infield pieces to replace those two aging bats of Condor and Larson. You can see how coming in, coming out there. They've still got De'Aaron Taylor coming through, who's the first base bomber, who's come out, who played his first season of PB last season. Krispy Kreme will be coming up shortly. Master Sheep is a great user, so whether they go ahead and use Krispy Kreme as a relief pitcher or move him into a starting role when he does come up, that could sort of fill that hole that's been left by Toussaint. But I think this is a pretty solid draft. They definitely got some pieces that could help them.
No, not a bad draft at all. Um, I mean, Buffalo always seems to be competing or kind of in the mix there in the East, and I do think with this draft and upcoming drafts that they've had, the past drafts, that they set themselves up quite well for the future here, and we're going to start seeing them poke with the OBX and the Voyagers here soon for winning the division. So
Yep.
we'll see. Last team in the East is going to be the Providence Crabs, finishing at a 51-57 record. Just overall, quite a competitive division, actually. Um, Providence is they got some. They're rebuilding at this time, but they've built quite a core, coming through a few more pieces to replace. I would say that they need to replace shortstop, center fielder, and starting pitching. Some definite needs in this draft would be infield and starting pitching. Um, and I think they had fifth overall pick,
Yep.
and they picked up Philip Alou, who I would say is probably that would be my number one player in this draft. And I felt like
Yeah.
they got a steal at 5 with that. Just a great guy, a great earner. I think he's the first create, and
Yep.
I just see big things, and they definitely got an A+ from me for that. And some of their top prospects coming up is Santiago Benito and just another Cove, which I don't even want to try the first name, but seems like shortstop could be cleared for that. So we will see in the next couple seasons for their
Yeah, I think
Providence.
There's definitely going to be spots in the outfield for Alikh to take when it's time for him to come up. I think it was also a
Mhm.
matter of just like they needed a bat. They decided they wanted to go bat first, and that's the best bat that was available. Nearly best bat in the draft, I'd say.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that takes us over to it will be the San Antonio Sloss over in the Legends West. Now, I want to do a little bit of a little preview into Vancouver as well because San Antonio actually traded their first round pick for Wendy Marvell and Lizzie Mitchell. So 10 overall, John Canham Jr. for Wendy Marvell and Lizzie Mitchell. Now, this doesn't help San Antonio get younger, but it does mean that San Antonio might have the best rotation ever.
Yeah,
Let me read out the rotation to you for next season. Sam Antonio, Savonale Mikutowicz, Lizzie Mitchell, Wendy Marvell.
that's pretty crazy.
That rivals the OBX rotation, which is
Hmm.
downright stupid. So they've decided that we all know that San Antonio is a little bit older. They needed pieces everywhere to help. So instead of rebuilding, they said stuff this. They got in the kitchen. They got in the kitchen, and Joe got cooking.
They
And
sure did.
brought over Wendy Marvell, Lizzie Mitchell to try and keep pushing this window open. Uh, they're definitely a team that's going to have stronger pitching than hitting, but we'll see how it plays out. It's a dicey move, it's a ballsy move, and I like it.
It is. Pitching wins championships, even in the PB. I know some people don't believe that, but to have those four main starters, it's going to be nuts. And they do have aging bats, but those bats are still hot.
Yep.
Even with long pipe in there too, they can build around that. So it's definitely going to be another exciting season, I think, for San Antonio. So that will lead us to who finished second there in the West, and it's going to be not the Maui Makos, but the Toronto Pathfinders. And let's just pun intended, they're finding their own path. They will be the best team in the league in 2 seasons. Go ahead and bookmark that. And the only thing that they really need to worry about, and it's being kind of nitpicky, is they have an aging player in Jeff Newman at shortstop. I mean, he's only, I think, 30, but that's the only thing they really need to think about right now. And this team is, like you said, 2 or 3 seasons. I expect them to be up there at the top of the West and winning it constantly for quite a few seasons. They got some top prospects coming up here soon. Harvey Brinkley Jr. and Mo Love.
I
But
believe Brinkley Jr.'s up after this season, so
he is
be good to
okay.
see.
Yeah, and I believe Mo Love is coming up too,
Right, yeah.
from the Swift Steeds. So
I mean,
yeah, so
personally, as an
I just
Amarillo
don't see
GM, I
this.
hope that's the case.
Yeah, I believe he is though. So let's hope.
Yep, I think going back to that trade that they made with Buffalo as well, that is a win now trade. That is Kevin Larson, another big bat for the lineup. Uh, Kevin Larson Sen has made that player to hit some absolute bombs. I did his regression, did not take anything out of power, that man. He is still
Yeah,
going out there to try and deposit that ball uh, right back to Maui, I think. So it's going to be an interesting team. That's going to be a bloody juicy division, I think.
it's. I mean, if not this next season, but the next few seasons, it's going to be one of the most competitive ones out there. Just going to be standing there with the East and both the legends and champions there. So
Yep.
yeah.
Which takes us to our third team, so Vancouver. So Vancouver recently got a bit of company up in the White North when Toronto moved up there. But Vancouver, before the start of last season, they did a bit of addition by subtraction. They got better by trading Garrett Scudder to the Death Valley Scorpions. This season, I'm not sure if you could spin that trade the same way. Yes, they got John Canham Jr. back, but the main thing was getting 10 overall back when they traded Wendy Marvell and Lizzie Mitchell to the Sloss. Now, that's an interdivision trade as well, so interesting time. But Vancouver, knowing that they needed pitching, They went straight out there and they got Mudbone at 6 OA, 6 overall. Now, we are a little bit biased on Mudbone considering he is a Dillo, but man, did his player have, firstly, his player had a great season. Secondly,
Oh,
man,
greatest
time
relief pitcher in the
consumer.
minors.
Yeah, man, time consumer is fantastic in the locker room. Really
Oh
great.
yeah.
Couple that with Barry Allen. So, Barry Allen self-proclaimed he is going out there to get records on the base pass. So, he was selected at 10 overall. His position is first base. We'll see if he sticks there, if he moves over to a different position when he eventually comes up to the majors. But either way, they've got an absolute weapon on the base paths that should be a mainstay in the top of the rotation, top of the order for a long time. The Vandals need to get younger. It's going to bring some pain in the short term, but I think this is good moves for the long term. And I don't like saying that about Scud's moves.
No, I agree. What I feel about Vancouver is they're not doing the full rebuild, which I can respect. They're kind of just moving some parts, like you said. And like you said, also, they're not going to be that good this season. They're rebuilding their pitching staff, but they do have a main core that they can build around. They have a Care Bear who is 27 years old. They have a Dan King Jr. that's young that they can build around. So I still think that they have the hitting to compete, but yeah, that pitching is going to be tough. So
Yep.
we will see how that goes. And this leads us to the Boise Raptors here at the bottom of the West, sitting at 25-83 last season. Boise is still in full of that full-on rebuild that they need. So they need everything. It's basically best available at this point. So they have some big old cliffhangers out there. Does Bauer re-sign with the team? And what is the long-term solution for the pitching staff? And who are they going to have in center field? Well, they got some top prospects. Of course, Holkovado, which is Bauer's player. Let's see if he sticks around. But Papa Emeritus, and the picks this season, which I actually kind of like, was John Cook, who they went ahead and got for some pitching staff, for some pitching there, and Kent Murphy as well. I mean, hey, they know that they need pitching, and they're going to go out and get it, which I can respect because, like we said before, it's a pretty weak draft for pitching. So I'm actually quite happy with their picks.
Yeah, I think they will be really happy that they were able to stay put. I believe they got Jungkook late in their first round pick is owned by Cancun. Believe they had Nashville's from the Beauchamp Reyes deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and that was where they got Jungkook. The fact they were able to stand still at it would have been in that 13 to 14 range, and they got Jungkook. That would have been a massive, massive win for
Mm-hmm.
the Boise GMs. I believe they have a relationship with the user James T from the SHL, and that leads them to Kent Murphy, who they traded back into the first round. They traded with Cancun to get back in at 16 OA to go and get their man Kent Murphy. So Kent Murphy, both of these picks, I really think that it was a tough draft for them because they didn't have their first overall pick. They didn't have their first round pick, but they've made it work. I think they've got two
They
solid
did.
players
Yep.
here. They've got questions coming up that they need answered, but I think the rebuild will look a lot clearer after this season.
Definitely.
Which takes us into, well, now we're done with the champ.
We're going to
We're done with the
champion. We're
legends.
done
We're
with
going to the
legends. Yep.
champions. We're going to your
Yeah.
Nashville Stars. So, Nashville Stars, Bazooka Joe going to be the ace with Parker Parton starting to regress. Benny Sheets there in the rotation. It's a well-rounded team. Now, we just talked about the Jordan Beauchamp Reyes deal, which meant that there wasn't a first-round pick for them this season, but there's still talent coming up. You got Jose 43 and a quarter, and you've got Adalbert Steiner both on their way up. Both big-time prospects, I think, that will provide a real kick to that lineup. It's starting to get a little bit older. Where they go from here in the future seasons will be exciting to see, but I think it's still a team that right off at your own peril. I think they've still got a couple of seasons left. I know you probably think that as well.
I do. Yeah. I know that everybody wants to write them off and that they're going to start regressing, judging by some of the articles I've read out there, Mike. um, but no, I still feel like Nashville's just that team, and they're going to keep on competing there in the championship, Champions East with Lunar and Detroit. It's just that division is the hell division. It's always going to be. It always seems like. And right now, what I would say is that the weak point for the Nashville Stars is pitching at this point, with Parton regressing that much. And me and Benny up at the top of the pitching rotation is going to help, but we don't have the strongest bullpen out there. I know that for a fact. But this hitting team is going to keep on doing their thing, even with Yuppers leaving and Escalito leaving, which definitely hurts. But we got Yaboa coming into his second season, and just like you said, we got Steiner and we got Jose 43 and a quarter coming up. Hopefully, they can give us a little bit of spark and we can make another run.
Yeah, for sure.
So it leads us to the dreaded and ungrateful lunar-based Space Rangers, finishing in second, 64 and 44. Uh, just like Nashville, Lunar's kind of getting older there too. They got a lot of hitting what ifs. Case Stepson, Slothesco, who is next coming through. Well, they need a catcher badly, and they need some outfielders. And they went ahead and got Indianapolis and Adillo, Curtis McKenzie, who I love that pick for them, and I'm gonna hate seeing him in the yellow and black there. But they also have the top prospects: Allison Chains from the Firehawks and Kirk Swerve Jr., who I believe is also a Firehawk. They're both looking to come up, and just like the Voyagers, just like that team, Lunar Base ain't going anywhere. They ain't going anywhere for a while. They're going to be competing, and hopefully they can get over that schneid of winning a World Series one of these seasons, no matter how much I kind of don't like them.
Yeah, I think that first pick, Indianapolis, that was definitely a sort of pick that is can never have enough pitching. Is what that pick sort of said to me. They've got,
Definitely.
yes, Benjamin's getting older, yes, Ragnarok's getting older, but they've still got Alina, Allegra Macarena right in the dirt. They've got, I feel like I'm forgetting someone. They've got Mana Wright, they've got John Marston, they've got Beauregard Rove. I mean, the pitching is stacked. And then
Yeah.
they've added a top 10 prospect to that. So, alright, cool. We'll just keep. You got to keep the ball around on the moon. So, okay, good play. Curtis
Mhm.
McKenzie, man, home run pick here. I think this is the best draft anyone had. I'm gonna be honest. I think this is the best draft that a team. This is the team with the best draft this season.
Where did they get McKenzie at?
They got him late first.
Yeah, to get McKenzie that late too. I mean, I thought for sure it was going to be a top 10 pick, and to get him that late,
He
it's pretty fantastic.
now you don't draft based off a player's performance in the sim, but it's
Nope.
worth noting when the sim treats players with kindness. You worked out what it feels like in the playoffs to not be treated with kindness. Curtis McKenzie came to Vadillo's halfway through the season, and he nearly led the team in home runs as a first-year player.
Yeah.
The sim loved it. The sim loved Curtis
Mm.
McKenzie. I think this is a great pick. I think they are absolutely looking great. I think
Oh
they've got
yeah.
that next level coming through, and they've still got guys on the roster who are young. Kelly Alvarez still got to take that step up. The pitching as well, it's still quite young. Still got to take that step up. Which leads us to the old curmudgeons of the division, the Detroit Demons. So they're definitely ones who are fighting the regression stick pretty. Well, they're not winning, put it that way. Right and Dirty retired. There's a few other pitchers who are going through regression. Keegan Helverson's going through heavy regression. James Lutz is going through heavy regression. Jet Jaguar's retired. I mean, they're fighting an uphill battle. Do they have? Is it still positives for the future? Yes, because they've got players like Maple Dogwood and Tony Gunk Jr. coming through, and they added to that by adding Dachi Nakamura, who is an absolute bomb-hitting third baseman. I think it's a good pick. I think they could have gone pitching if they wanted to, but I think they were at that point where they felt like if they took a pitcher, they'd be reaching for someone who wasn't a quality pick. and I didn't want to trade up to go get the pitching either. There is pitching coming in the next draft. We'll see where the Demons go there.
Yeah, I mean, I want to write them off all the time as well, but Detroit's always there at the end. They got still the main core. They got Burnside. They got Granholm, Jackson, McSticks. They have quite the hitting
Yeah.
quite the
Burnside's
hitting
my call
lineup.
for
So
MVP. Burnside's my call for
yeah,
MVP. Yeah.
it's always mine. Jesus, it's tearing me up all the time. So now we go down to Indianapolis. Well, so besides the recent trade that has happened where they sent Wayne Wheeler to the Cancun Toros, they still were very strong on pitching for prospects. Still think for this draft they need to focus on the hitting because their hitting is just atrocious. And for their hitting, position wise, I feel like they need a catcher really bad, infield, and an outfielder. Some of their top prospectors, some of their top prospects coming up is Amelia Milligan and Cal Pico, which is definitely going to help out their infield and their outfield. Still, the catcher is a what if. But who do they went ahead and grab this draft for them?
Do you want to say the
I
name?
think it was. Let me see. Oh, yep, it's Alexander Elisescu. I did that awesome,
You
dude.
did that perfect. I'm sure when
Come on,
Alikh,
you guys.
is editing this, he's gonna be like, "Yep, nailed it, Luke."
Yep, nailed it. So like, I mean, they need it's one of these drafts that they need everything, but they need everything for the offensive category. I feel, and they can't go wrong with anything, especially with a draft like this that is actually quite heavy with hitting. So I feel like they did an all right job. There's still some what ifs out there with Indy, and I don't see them being making that next step this following season. I still see them being at the bottom of the Champions East and hopefully getting more wins, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's still going to be a challenging season, but that the plan is taking place. The Wayne Wheeler trade, I don't think it will hurt them that much. They've still got Turunga Leela, HOR Hypocrites, Stun Gun, and Junha Choi will be the rotation this season. That's four really solid pitchers. Either
Yeah,
high earners or really good builds, or a combination of the two. And then you've still got players like Beta Chapler in the pen. I think that the rotation and the bullpen are going to be just fine. Yes, the hitting needs to improve, but they've got the players coming through. They've got Amelia Milligans coming up this season. Kel Pico will be coming up the season after. Add to that, uh, yeah, my turn. Alexander Alaskew, and you've got a really good middle of the order, top of the order there. Add in Josh the Jew. I think they're just fine. I think they're going to be just fine. I think this team is coming through, and I think it'll be maybe 2 to 3 seasons. But I think if you looked at that, if you told me right now, if a time traveler came back and said Indianapolis won the season 45 World Series, I would not be surprised at all.
no, I'm there with you.
So that would then take us over to the West and starting with the world champion Death Valley Scorpions. They deserve 2 trophies because, well, did you see who their stopper was this season?
I know it's pathetic, and I was actually speaking to Max Power and Gladys Barrero, and they said, you know what, we won that World Series, but we're really actually a little more happier that Garrett Scudder's retiring this season.
Retiring, yeah.
So that's what they told me. Yep.
We're
So
expecting that Scud's player will probably go 45th overall in the minors draft. We'll see how that plays out. So, looking at Death Valley, wow, just a well-rounded roster everywhere. They've got power from Kuma and Max Power. They've got they've got hitting in bunches with Rake Slammer and Kulik Warren. All too well, 10-minute version. I've always wanted to say that name. And then you look at the pitching, and you've got Giuseppe Jones, you've got Poe Scott, you've got Johnny Tsunami the second, Jeffrey Lebowski, Ryan Stryker Jr., Boris Petrovic. It's just there's quality everywhere, and then you add to that by saying, okay, I don't need draft picks this season. They don't. Like, it wouldn't matter.
They don't.
So they go ahead and they
Nope.
trade both of their picks to Seattle. One was for a first rounder next season. That's probably going to be top 2 overall. The last
Oh
time
yeah.
last time they did a trade like this, they ended up picking Evok at 3, and they get extra cap room to help keep all these players. I think for a team who didn't make any draft picks, man, they had a good draft.
Oh yeah. Just like and this team isn't going anywhere. And I would not be surprised if they went back to back. They're just that stacked and ready to go right now. So they said F them picks and they went with their core here, and I don't blame them at all. So we'll see them again in the playoffs, I'm sure.
Oh, 100%.
So that leads us,
And
yeah,
just waiting there in the wings is Evok, ready to come up and help bolster that rotation whenever ready.
let's look at that. That's even with Keep a Secret there. That's a heck of a pickup to get last draft, and she's ready to come up and go.
Yep.
That's going to be a crazy earner there too. So this leads us to New Orleans Rougarous, and like I've said before, at least I feel like, is that the Rougarous remind me of who do they remind? The San Antonio Slavs, getting a little older, stuff like that. They have aging hitters, but they have some pretty solid prospects. They do need some pitching that they need to look at. Again, unfortunate that is quite the not the pitching draft that we have. But they got some top prospects coming up: Manuel Bang and Sad Fakar. So their needs, like I said, starting pitching, relief pitching, go anywhere in this draft with some pitching, but hopefully they can get it early. But like I said, Nola's getting older. They got they Haagen-Dazs, I think, is moving on.
They've
Eddie Gar
Eddie
is
Gar
moving
is
on
Yep.
to Nashville.
Yep. If you look
And
at the people who have left, it could make a roster. It could make a pretty solid team. I believe that Pax Torrent and CC Bouchard are both gone as well as park factors as well.
Yep, park factors. I did hear that as well. Yeah, so uh, I don't know. I think this might be the season that we see kind of Nola taking a step back.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I agree with your comparison to San Antonio, except San Antonio approached it by saying, "Let's, you know,
Attack it. Yeah.
yeah, let's strap in and let's go again." Whereas Nola have gone, "Okay, it's time for us to break this down and let's kick off again." They've got
Yeah.
Phillies fan, the GM there. His player is coming through. He would have been selected in the second round of this draft, so they've got this. They'll have the pitcher. They'll have the pieces there. It's just going to be a little bit down the road because they've still got people like Trevor Tulowitzki. They've still got the prospects there. It's just going to be a little bit of a wait.
Mm-hmm.
So, my new team, the Cancun Toros. So yes, they traded for Wayne Wheeler. He's going to slot into the pen there. It makes a rotation that's probably a little bit of overkill, I believe. Leatherneck Mike, uh, one of the hosts of this show, mentioned in his latest media piece. Yeah, you could agree with that. You could also say that they've decided to really put a lot of value in that bullpen. So it's gonna be interesting to see how those pitchers come up. They've now got 3 pitchers from the same draft class: Wayne Wheeler, Nova Montaigne, and Ryan Knock. So all of them will be entering regression at the same time. High highs, low lows, possibly. Um, Other than that, they basically approach this draft as what happens when we moved on from the IAs that are currently in the outfield, and they went ahead and said, let's take Xander Azza at 3. This is a
Right.
pick here that I could have seen either gone with Xander Azza, or they could have gone with Philip Alou that we talked about, who ended up going 5 to Providence. I think either of them would have been great picks. I can't speak for how the decision-making process was made, but obviously Twitchy and the War Room there have had a great feeling about Baz, and they've taken his player at 3 overall.
Yeah. I've said this for quite a few seasons here, but the pitching staff with Johnny Quest, Matt Stroh, Ike Sampson, Aaron Silence, in about 2 or 3 seasons, this pitching staff, bullpen, it's going to be the best in the league.
I think
Uh,
people still remember this. It's perceptions are hard to change, and the perception is still that Cancun struggles, and it'll be that perception until they make the playoffs. But don't sleep
And
on the fact that you can talk about the prospects, but don't sleep on the fact that they've got players who are good right now, like Quest, Stroh, Sampson, Greenwall, Sims. Yeah.
Yep. They have some answers coming up. Whether Dog and Eminem's going to stay. J. Smith. See if they'll stay. Legally Blind Gamer and Steel. But if they can stay and make it for the long haul, this is going to be a dangerous, dangerous team. So time will tell. That leads us to the bottom of the rack here. Full rebuild. Hopefully almost done with that. Seattle Sea Serpents. Another team that can't miss in this draft because they need everything, right? So clearly they're the furthest away from being competitive, and so I would say that their main needs are probably infield and outfield. Their top prospects coming up are Harley Quinn and their number one overall pick last season, Shohei Ohtani. I felt like this year's draft actually went well. They got Theo Allard, just to name a few, Webster Rocca II, and Laharm James, who is a certified Zook sleeper. I think they got him at 15, which
Yes.
for
Yep.
having that much TPE is quite the grab there at 15. So hopefully this team is looking at the up and up, and I expect them to have more than 25 wins. And but like this pitching staff, Billy Hargrove just took it right in the face there.
Yep.
Took a punch to the face last season and finished at 2-20. And I just hate to see it because he has quite the TP, he's quite the potential, but he's getting up to that point that they need to start looking at pitching, and some of their position players are getting up there like Shane Knox.
Yeah. I think that Laharm James could end up being like steal the draft. It's just taking everything into account. One thing that is interesting is that Jimbo, the GM, whose plays Billy Hargrove, he's retired and he's traded a shortstop, so he'll be picked up in next year's draft. That means that then they've got 3 infielders in terms of second base and shortstops in Theo Allard, Webster Rocket II, and Jimbo's player. So they're gonna have to shuffle some people around, but they've got the hitters now. They've got the pitchers of Shohei Ohtani, Laharm James. It's starting to come together. They did trade a lot of assets, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely.
That pretty much wraps it up for us. I think it was so good that I almost feel like I've done this twice, Luke.
Don't get me started. Almost.
So I hope everyone either agrees or disagrees with what we've been saying here. I think overall, a little bit of a smaller draft class. The one that's coming through the minors this season ended up being 45 plus just from the draft. So hopefully, a good 15 plus waivers, and we could have enough for 60 prospects. We'll see what happens. Teams have some questions to answer.
Correct.
Man, I
But
think there's going to
nobody
be.
cares about the majors. We all care about the minors.
We all
So can't
about the
wait for
minors.
Saturday.
Exactly. Whether
Yep.
this, I'm trying to figure out when this is going to come out. Maybe it's after that draft. Maybe it's not. Either way, tune in or catch up on the draft results. The minors is where the chaos happens. Other than that, signing off. Any last words from you, Zook?
Nope. Goodbye, Zook. That's it.
Goodbye, everyone. Stay safe. Much love.
Stay safe.